sufrir. Contigo me voy, mi santa, aunque me cueste morir. Si tú me quieres.
Hello and welcome. My name is Abril Murillo. We're very excited to have you. I will be co-hosting today's event with my friend Monica Pryor. Hi, Monica.
Hi, hello.
And we do have other members that we're excited to introduce, but first, I want to give you a little background on today's event. So we are part of the HACEMOS inaugural Emerging Latina Leadership Program, or ELLP. So you'll hear that throughout today's show a lot. For my external audience, HACEMOS is a Hispanic and Latino employee resource group here at AT&T. And their mission is to foster an environment to succeed professionally, personally, and in the community. So this is a 6-month program for level 1 and 2 employees. It is a dynamic, intensive, and future-ready program supporting Latina professionals seeking to improve interpersonal, professional, and leadership skills. So we all went through a selection process and we got this awesome opportunity to become part of this pilot program. And as our graduation, we were grouped in teams and given a problem statement to solve. So here's our problem statement on the screen. How might we as Latina employees support AT&T with a virtual event so that we empower other Latinas to take the next step in their careers? So here we are. We have prepared a jam-packed agenda for you. This is our Capstone project, and we're excited to have you. So now I'll toss it to Monica to introduce the rest of the team.
Thank you, Abril. Well, I'd like to introduce the entire team and the topics they're going to be covering today. Reina Amaya, creating Latino community initiatives and the benefits of those initiatives. Julie Summers, modern resumes. Myself, Monica Pryor, stage fright and elevator speeches. Delia Hernandez, building your team of advocates. And my friend Abril Murillo, building your career blueprint. And then we're going to close it out with Q&A at the end. So before we delve into our topics, I'd like to cover one quick housekeeping item. If you look at the right middle section of your screen, you'll see a tab for chat and Q&A. Feel free to submit questions in that Q&A tab during our webcast. The questions will only be visible to Abril and myself. We will do our best to answer all the questions. If we don't answer your question during the webcast, we will answer them at a later date. Now to kick us off, Reina Amaya will be covering creating Latino initiatives and the benefits.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Monica. So a little bit of why I'm interested in this is because representation, of course, matters. So many companies are prioritizing workplace and access to high-paying executive levels. However, we still have room for growth. In 2020, our presidential candidates pushed the idea of diversifying the corporate boards, also punishing companies with poor diversity track records, as well as increasing funding for minority-led institutions or businesses. However, there was a recent analysis that demonstrated that white male figures are still holding 85% of executive positions, such as CEOs, management directors, financial officers, with only 4% being male Latinos and 1% being Latino women. However, there is, like I said, there's growth there that needs to happen. If you look at our information, can we see the other slide, please? If you look at the numbers for New York, you'll see that they have a 2.3 million individuals that are Latinos. However, out of that big scope of people, only 4.5% are executive Latinos. And why it matters is because it is a big community of Latinos, and we're not making those decisions for the businesses. We're still not as diverse as we should be looking at. Also, maintaining a diverse workforce is very imperative for our modern organizations, especially if we're going to continue growing and want to capture those other markets. So diverse companies tend to have 70% more likely to attain markets in different areas. So again, this is why it's really important that we provide that representation, especially in our businesses. We push to attain those executive roles. Next slide, please. So some of the companies are taking those steps in the right direction, and some of those, as you can see, are AT&T, Coca-Cola, American Express. One of the things that I loved that I as I was doing this, realized that like Coca-Cola, American Express, and Dr. Pepper, they have a organization called OLA, or an ERG group called OLA, which stands for Hispanic Origin and Latino. I'm sorry. I do apologize. Latin American. I'm sorry. So that's what it stands for. And this, what they do is they also, just like AT&T, they provide employment. They provide employment. I do apologize. Development, networking, and also community development as well. And as for Coca-Cola, one of the things that stand out the biggest for me for them is that they provide support to their DACA employees, or the dreamers. They pay $500 towards their renewal fees, so they are putting themselves out there to support their Latino community. As for AT&T, we have High Tech Day for our next generation, where we go out to the community and we bring Latino leaders so that they have that representation and they're able to see what they can become in the future, and just focus on STEM so that they can see what's possible for them to come. Next slide, please. As for things that we can do to improve, be open to to business opportunities. It's important that we continue to diverse our company, because by doing so, it shows that 19%. The companies attain a higher revenue by 19% by doing so. So that's why it's so important to look for young talent, especially now that Latino students are going to college more than ever. So it's really important to look towards that youth for opportunities and innovation as well. Also, it closes cultural gaps in companies. To have that person in a meeting that can bring a different perspective matters, especially if it comes from a Latino perspective, because we're capturing a market that we have not been capturing before. Now, for the imposter syndrome, this is something we've just recently learned through this ELP program, and it's really resonated with me. It's just a mindset of not feeling like we belong. And a lot of it has to do with how we grew up, and our parents telling us to stay humble, to make sure that we're keeping our heads down, don't ruffle the feathers. But sometimes you get this sense of not belonging. But guess what? Spoiler alert: no one feels like they belong at one point or another. We always feel like we're out of place or fish out of water. But it's up to us to be our biggest advocate. Reach out to those people that are around you. If you look around, there's mentors around that are willing to help you and move into another role, or provide some feedback, some guidance. So just look around you. Everybody's in the same boat sometimes. It's just a matter of looking and asking for help and moving, just continuing to push yourself to grow. And understand what triggers you. Sometimes it may be like your parents, like getting in your head, like, just don't ruffle feathers, keep your head down, just do the right thing all the time. So it doesn't mean that you're going to stop being humble, but also praise yourself. Be your biggest supporter. Look at the facts. Always remind yourself, oh my gosh, I really did that amazing thing. Like, give yourself some praise for the amazing things you did in the past that got you where you are today. So remember, you do belong just like anybody else. And lastly, I did mention before, representation matters. I shared this with our group. I was reading through articles as we were getting this presentation ready, and a couple articles came up where previous executives that are Latinos acknowledged that because they didn't want to lose the opportunity of a position, and they were a little, they look white, they wouldn't correct the hiring manager or their peers in a fear that they wouldn't get that position. But as they grew older, they started embracing their culture, and they realized that they are worthy. And representation does matter for the next generation to come. Again, because we are seeing more Latinos going to college now, it is important that they see the generation before doing it right. So thank you so much for the time. And now I'm going to be presenting Julie Summers, who's going to be discussing modern resumes.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so today I'm presenting on modern resumes. Resumes are a necessity in the workplace, and I thought it would be interesting to give some tips on how to improve the resume and application process. So I don't see the slides that are being presented. So to begin, I'll start with, what are minorities up against in the resume screening process? And how does the application review process work, as well as the main components of a resume, and provide some resources and references. Next slide, please. So what are minorities up against in the application process? In my research, I found that when compared to equally qualified ethnic minorities need to complete 50% more applications to receive a call for a job interview. Next, ethnic name discrimination in resume screening has been reported around the world, and evidence shows that applicants with ethnic-sounding names are least liked and hired. And lastly, minority women face more discrimination in resume screening than do men, and it's referred to as the double jeopardy hypothesis because ethnic women belong to two outgroups, which are the female and minority. So these are some startling facts that us as minority women have, it's a hurdle that we have to be aware of. This is not meant to, deter anyone from writing a resume or from applying for a job. This is more for, the more you know, the more you're able to, you have that in your toolkit, and you know that that's something that will be part of the application process. So next slide. The application process can include resume screening as well as biases and discrimination. So organizations receive resumes from multiple sources, including online submissions, recruiting services, and job portals, such as Indeed and email. Therefore, systems replace human review in the initial phases of the application screening process. So this it's an automated machine learning process that looks for matches in words between a job posting and the contents of a resume. So back in the day, right, we used to have our resume and submit it as a static document that would be updated occasionally to update, experience or, maybe some extracurricular activities. But now in 2021, the resume needs to be updated for each job that you apply for because of this machine learning process. If you're applying for a job, make sure that you have matching words from the job description in your resume so that it'll pick up a match and move you on to the next phase of the screening process. Approximately 90% of Fortune 500 companies use resume screening software, and approximately 75% of resumes received are never even looked at by a human. Additionally, so biases and discrimination, as was stated before, names, hiring managers may discriminate based on ethnic sounding names. But in research, it was found that rather than attempting to try to hide any ethnic or background information, applicants should actually provide more personalized information by means of video resumes or social network sites. Social network sites can help the hiring managers get more of a feel of the type of person you are, your personality, and any extracurricular activities that you're involved in. So make sure that if you do have a LinkedIn or Indeed profile, that those are updated fully, because again, the hiring managers will look, and if it's incomplete or has grammar errors, then those are things that will, give them ammo to just push your resume aside and to continue on with others. The next slide is the contents of a resume. So there are the profile summary, which is the most important piece of real estate on a resume, and it provides a strong pitch to human readers and also improves the applicant's chances of passing through applicant tracking system scanners. As Monica Pryor will speak to later in elevator pitches, the profile summary is a great area to put your elevator speech. It's just a 50 to 100 word description of who you are, what you want to do, and what your goals are. So that's the profile summary. The professional experience, maximum of 15 years, and then education, accomplishments, awards, philanthropy, involvement, and skills are lower down in the resume. There are lots of templates that you can use, both for free and for paid services, and I've included those in the resources section of this presentation. So please, go there and reference these sites, and it'll help develop your own resume and bring it up to the 2021 expectations. So the next slide is just the resources, www.wemeancareer.com, as well as topresume.com. So I hope this presentation will help develop your resume for your next or first job. And thank you for having me.
I think we're back to you, Monica. Thank you, Julie.
Thanks, Julie. So I will be covering stage fright and elevator speeches. So next slide, please. So first, let's talk about what is stage fright. It's the fear of public speaking or performing. And when you're trying to connect with someone for the first time, it may feel a lot like you are about to speak to a very large crowd or like you're going to perform on a stage. You may feel a little bit nervous, and you might get that sense of butterflies in your stomach. Next slide, please. So let's cover some tips on how to overcome that stage fright when you're trying to connect with someone. Get organized. Know what you're going to talk about. Have a sense of what you're going to talk about before you approach that person. Address any specific worries that you may have. For example, I tend to talk a lot with my hands, and the running joke with my family and friends is that if my hands were tied together, I wouldn't be able to speak. So that's something that I need to address is hand movement when I speak to people. Don't fear a moment of silence. During the conversation when you're connecting with someone, there may be silence, and that's okay. It may just be that the person that you're speaking with is just pausing to process the information that you're sharing. Be sure to practice, practice, practice. Get to a point where you feel very comfortable and familiar with what you're going to say. And if you still have those little butterflies and that nervous feeling, you can practice some deep breathing exercises to settle your nerves. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about what an elevator speech is. It is a short, persuasive speech to introduce yourself to potential context that will leave a positive and lasting impression. The key to delivering an elevator speech is to keep it concise. Next slide, please. So let's talk about some tips to prepare for an elevator speech. You want to be persuasive. If you are connecting with someone outside of your organization, you want to state your name, the company you work for, and what you do. If you happen to be trying to connect with someone internal in your organization, you want to state the department or business unit that you work in and what you do. Sell your skills and strengths. Perhaps you're looking to pivot from your current space to something else. Let's say you are in accounting and you want to go into marketing. That would be a great opportunity to say that in an elevator speech. You could approach it from the perspective of, I'm currently in marketing, I'm currently in accounting, want to go to marketing, and these are the skills that I think I would be an asset in that group. You never really know who you're going to connect with. They may be part of the space that you want to move to, or they may know someone in that space that they can help you connect with. Share what makes you unique and, share what makes you unique and the results of your work. When you do that, be sure not to use a lot of jargon or acronyms that someone outside of your department or team may not be familiar with. Your speech should be approximately 30 to 60 seconds. That time will go fast, so be sure you hit the highlights of what you want to share and make sure it doesn't sound rushed when you do it. It's a powerful representation of who you are, so make sure you hit on all the relevant points and things that you want that person to remember when that conversation is over. Next slide. Let's talk about some tips to deliver an elevator speech. You want to practice and then practice some more. You want it to feel like a conversation, like you're talking to someone. You don't want to sound like it's a presentation. Practice with a friend or a colleague. Feedback is a gift. Your friend or colleague may be able to provide you some insight that you hadn't really thought about that can take your elevator speech to the next level. Record your speech, but remember, don't be too critical of yourself. Look at it from the perspective of maybe aspects of your speech that you could improve. Let your speech become effortless. You never know when you'll have that opportunity, perhaps at a virtual event or an in-person event, where someone might say, tell me about yourself, or what do you do in your organization? And I'm going to end with this note. I have a dear friend and colleague of mine who has an elevator speech. She worked on it very hard, practice, and got it to a point where it was effortless. About a couple years ago, she ran into an officer level executive of her organization, and he asked her, tell me about yourself. And she felt very comfortable and confident delivering that speech. And he actually gave her a compliment on it. He said it was one of the best he had ever heard. So remember, always have that ready, have it effortless, and make it flawless, because you don't know when that opportunity will come. Coming up next, Delia will share, go ahead, advance the next slide, please. Coming up next, Delia Hernandez is going to talk about building and maintaining your team of advocates.
Well, thank you, Raina, Julie, and Monica for providing us those tips and insights. Well, we all know that when it comes to career advancement, sometimes job performance and a stellar job performance alone is not enough to get you a new role or a promotion. Sometimes you need a team of advocates who are part of your network to help with advancing your career. The timing of what was covered in last week's HACEMOS Latino Career Chat on Twitter as part of Hispanic Heritage Month could not have been more perfect for this presentation. I'd like to share with you some testimonials and quotes from our Latina leaders, some of our Latina leaders who participated in the dialogue and shared the importance of the advocates to advance their careers. So one of the specific questions in the career chat was, how can allies best support Latino professionals advancing their goals? We had our very own Celeste Carrasco share, quote unquote, midway in my career, an ally was the one who elevated my name in front of leadership. He nominated me for development, which eventually propelled me to my promotion and into the executive role I currently hold. Another quote that stood out for me was from Lynette Aguilar. Lynette said, do more than mentor, sponsor, sincerely invest in Latinos, getting them ready so that when their preparedness meets opportunity, you are fiercely advocating for them at the tables that matter. So all this is fitting in a perfect segue to what I will present today, building and maintaining your team of advocates. Much of what I put together is a result of me having participated in AT&T's Women of Color program and me reaching out to my network and asking them specific questions about their team of advocates. So I will start out, if you can go to the next slide, I will start out by covering the definitions for each of the advocate roles. It's important to know the differences. Then I will follow with building your team of advocates, how to maintain them, and then next steps that you can take. So let's start off with the role definition. You can go to the next slide. So many are you familiar with the roles of the coach, the mentor, the sponsor, and the champion. So let's start off with coaches. The coaches, they provide you feedback for your development. They are sometimes experts in a certain field, and they help you develop in a certain skill or a gap that you want to improve on. Think about the sports coach. They drill you, motivate you, they spend time helping you improve in a certain area. Coaches can be found internally as well as externally. Sometimes it's your immediate supervisor, a supervisor in another group. It may also be a peer. So let's move on to the mentor. These are individuals who can be your sounding board. They provide you the career guidance. They share with you the unwritten rules, and they can provide more breadth about the company or an organization. Both mentors and coaches are level agnostic, but let me go now to the sponsor. The sponsor, these are usually leaders who are at least 2 levels above your level. They are there to advocate for you when opportunities present themselves. They are influential, and they can connect you to their network. And then the last role is the champion. I consider these the cheerleaders. They understand your career goals, they elevate you, and they help raise you up, and they continuously cheer you on. One thing I would like to say about these roles is that sometimes your team of advocates may wear multiple hats. For example, I had a boss who was my coach and mentor, and as he moved on to a new role, he has now become my champion. I just wanted to let you know that sometimes some of your advocates can cross various roles and change as you progress in your career and as they progress in their career as well. So we go on to the next slide. So now that you know the differences between each of the roles, I would like to talk to you about how you can build your team of advocates. So where do you begin? It's all about creating and building those relationships. For me, it's about network. Join employee networks, employee groups, join their mentoring programs. I'd like to give a shout out to the Los Angeles chapter of HACEMOS in creating an inaugural mentoring program for their members. Take advantage of it if you're a member. I can't wait to see how this grows nationally. Identify individuals of power and influence who can be your potential sponsors and champions. And then find experts in your field of interest, either internal or external to the company. These type of individuals often become your coaches and mentors. For example, if you want to develop your financial acumen, identify a subject matter expert who can coach or mentor you in that skill. Another thing that's important about building your team of advocates is nurture those relationships. Nurture relationships with those who walk the talk when it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Do they advocate for other people of color? Is their organization made up of a diverse group of employees? Also, don't be shy about asking your peers, bosses, other leaders in the company, leaders outside the company, how they built their team of advocates. Find out if they joined mentoring programs. Did they take on a challenging assignment where they excelled and got noticed? Did someone match them up with sponsors and champions? So now that I've covered some of the tips of creating and building your team of advocates and allies, let's talk about how you maintain those relationships. You can go to the next slide, thank you. One of the things you should do is evaluate your current relationships. Identify, do you meet with your advocates often? Is it different between mentors versus coaches or champions? Perhaps there are some advocates and allies where you need to reconnect and reestablish that relationship. One of the things I like to do is keep a journal of your interactions. You would be surprised the tidbits of advice that you can often refer to. Also, make sure you touch base with your team of advocates and allies. Set up something recurring. It's okay if you meet more often with some roles versus others. Your interaction can be anything from a challenge you encountered, advice you need on a decision you need to make, or just touching base to share how things are going at home or at work. When you have your team of advocates, it's important that you build and maintain it with trust and confidentiality. As I mentioned above, share information about yourself, be vulnerable, be open to constructive feedback, and be open to being challenged. That's how you grow. So now that you know the differences between each role, have some recommendations on how to build your network and maintain it. So what are some next steps you can take? You can go to the next slide. One of the things you can do is make a list of your current advocates. Identify what role each of the advocates play. Do you have more advocates in a certain role? Again, keep in mind that where you are in your career, you may not have an advocate in each role, and that's okay. Sometimes it takes time to build your team of internal champions if you just joined the company. Are there roles that are underrepresented? Do you have a diverse set of advocates? Similarly to us wanting to be in organizations that are diverse, it makes sense to have your own diverse team of advocates. This will help in providing different perspectives. When I went through this exercise on jotting down who my list of current advocates are, all my advocates, when I listed them down, were retired or close to being retired. That was a wake-up call for me, and it served as a reminder to perhaps revisit and refresh your professional network on an ongoing basis. So now your challenge. Identify someone you like to ask to be part of your team and commit to doing one thing toward that goal. It could be setting up a call, having someone introduce you to that potential advocate, or attending a networking event to meet someone new. I'm hoping some of you attended HACEMOS' speed networking event, which took place a couple of hours ago. That would have been a perfect opportunity to meet some potential allies. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be part of this program and to provide you some ideas on creating and maintaining your team of advocates. I will now turn it over to Abril. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delia. So now you have learned many skills and tools to help you in your career, but have you decided what is the next step in your career? So as we have all experience with this pandemic, there are many external variables that can affect your future that you don't even see coming. But I hope we also learn other lessons, to be better prepared. For example, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Invest in your development and reflect on your career. That way we can all be better prepared and be in a better position to determine what changes may be required in order to move in a more satisfying direction. And something that I've noticed lately is that there are many videos, and I've seen it on social media and just everywhere. I don't know, it just seems to be everywhere that there are people shaming the 9-to-5. And they keep asking questions like, why do you want to work for someone else and, not have the liberty to do as you please and work the hours that you want? And I get it, in my opinion, I think they either had a very bad experience with a 9-to-5, they were born to be entrepreneurs, or at one point they were at a 9-to-5 and they cultivated their skills so they could become their own boss. But one thing that is true and that I've seen firsthand with my husband and my close friends, all the people that I know that are entrepreneurs, is that it's not as easy as it seems. When they try to make it that easy, just don't believe it. It's a lot of hard work. And I do believe that it might not be for everyone, but anyone can do it if you really put the work into it. And whether you work for yourself or someone else, what is really true is that you have to take control of your career. And don't fall for the critics. I do understand, that, yeah, there might be some flexibility in the hours, but when done right, a 9-to-5 or a day job can really give you life balance. So when you find a company whose vision you can believe in, whose people you can trust, and who pays you well for your role and gives you the opportunity to grow, then you are in the right place. And there are companies like that. We work for one, thankfully. So this ELLP, came at a perfect timing for me. So I thought at the top of my career, doing what I really love, creating videos and shows, live shows all over the world and traveling. And that was really exciting for me. And I had no complaints. But at one point, the whole world stopped and everything changed. So then I was worried, and I kept thinking, from going from here to here, like not even knowing if I was going to still have a job. But thankfully, my team had already in place tools so we could continue doing shows virtually. So when people couldn't travel, we could still support their events. And that was something that was in place even before the pandemic. It wasn't even made for that. It was made so that, AT&T is a global company, so that people that couldn't travel to a certain location or they were just busy in a meeting and couldn't leave, they could still join via telepresence or WebEx. So again, thankfully, all of that was already in place. And it was very helpful for us because we were in high demand. So I went, from being worried about having a job to feeling a little bit more secure, because we were in really high demand producing these shows for the whole company. And I would say it was nice because I was also at home more often, and that had been, a while since I had been home that much. And so I think my dog was very confused when he saw me there more often and realized that I actually do live there too. And anyway, so it was fun, a whole year we were going and, we started getting more ideas on how to perfection them. But I would say after a year of doing virtual shows only, it was starting to take a toll in my mental health. It was, I really felt trapped, and it wasn't just the work that I was doing. I think it was everything in general, not being able to do a lot of things. So when I got into this role, I actually missed the first email that was sent out by HACEMOS, but my sister-in-law forwarded it to me. And I think it was, again, just made for me. And I started taking the courses and listening to the speakers. And so I realized that we don't know how long this is going to keep going, right? And I couldn't be trapped in this position forever or feeling trapped. So I started changing my way of thinking. And I started doing more research and investing in my career development, because me being more at home meant, that I had more time to do that and see those things that I normally, wouldn't have seen because I was too busy trying to catch a flight. So I invested time. I started cultivating and really, changing my way of thinking. And that's how I came across a masterclass. And it was given by Elaine Walteroth. And the name of that masterclass is called Designing Your Career. And Elaine, she was the editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, and she actually got that job when she was only 29. And it resonated with me. She's a journalist, a writer, an activist, and so many other things. She's a multi-hyphenate woman. So it really resonated with me because she talked about visualizing your career. And that was my favorite part of the lesson. If you want to go and find it, she talks about great things, but this is really, to me, what resonated the most. And it helped me visualize my career and have a plan for it. So she talked about 2 different ways of seeing your career. You can go eagle eye view, which is the 30,000 view of your career. It's very high level, and it's your career blueprint. And I'll show you in a minute what that looks like. And in here, it's a literal timeline of where you started, where you are, and where you want to go. And so you have little stops along the way, and it's very flexible for you to change. That way, if you add a stop, you know that what the next one is, you know, and you can decide if it's going to help you or if it's going to redirect you somewhere else. The other view is the Hawkeye view. That is more granular, and that's where the mind map comes into play. So I'll show you both. I really think both are very helpful, but you can choose one. So here's my career blueprint. It's a summarized version just so you can kind of see what it looks like. And so it lists where I started. The star is where I am, and then, you know, next to it to the right is where I want to go. So these are just my dreams. You know, it was very helpful to put my dreams in little buckets, if you want to call them, and visualize them. Because I know a lot of people talk about, you know, just vision boards and really manifesting, but to me, it was hard to do that. I think I still have to work on mastering that, and I'm very visual, so this really helped me have it in front of me and have a better plan. So again, this is eagle eye view. Now let's go to the Hawkeye view, and this is where the mind map comes into place. And a mind map is used for many, many reasons. I thought it was brilliant to be used to visualize your career. So it is a diagram to visually organize information, and again, this is a concept that I really like the most from her lesson. So let's build your mind map. So again, at the center of everything is your purpose. And I don't mean it in a philosophical or spiritual way. You know, it's more of a realistic way of looking at things. Your purpose are your values, your core values. What is that group of values that no matter if you get surplus, if you get promoted, or if you have a complete change of career, they define who you are and you bring them with you no matter where you go. So once you have kind of defined that, then you can start adding, you know, those are the medium-sized circles next to it. And those medium circles, you can call them buckets if you want. And those are the industries that you want to tap in, where you want to play in, let's just say that. And you can have as many as you want. Again, this is just a summary so you can see it. And then from there, you start adding smaller circles that connect to each venture, and you get as granular as you want. So as an example, I'll show you mine. So at the center of everything, my values, and you know, Abril's why. And I have some of my industries that I really, really like. So journalism and writing, travel, video production, business, and sustainability. And from there, I started listing things that either I want to do or that I'm currently doing. And another thing that is very interesting to know is that you have some of the smaller circles that connect back to some of those industries that you want. And to me, that just really solidifies that you might be doing the right thing then in that more granular concept, because you're tapping into 2 different industries that you're passionate about. So it's no surprise that, you know, over there in the corner where I have media productions producer, it was tapping back into the video production and the travel industries. And that's why I was like feeling so happy when we were doing that, or when I was doing that. But, you know, I also have business. I have my current side hustles. And, you know, I do have this idea of creating a product that I just have to keep working through, but it taps back to sustainability. It has to do with that. It's a green product. Journalism, I have my blog. I have a ton of travel pictures and just advice and this and that. So I'm restarting my blog again. And again, it's just finding more joy in what I'm doing. And so, again, I really hope you utilize either your career blueprint or this mind map, because it just helps you visualize where you're going, and it helps you be better prepared. Also, another thing that was very helpful when I started doing is I realized that I discovered my zone of genius. And the zone of genius is pretty much, what is the intersection of your talents, of your skills, your values, and your passions. Pretty much that one thing that you can do best, that no one else can do. So when I started here, I started as a level 1, and I kept comparing myself to other people. And I was doing it wrong because, again, why would you compare yourself to others? You are not the others, you are your own self. So you have to find what is that one thing that you can do best. Because, obviously leadership doesn't want the same person or multiple people doing the same thing. We need to have variety so that everybody can fill a very specific role in the team and make the team stronger. And that also helps you raise your value to the team. So I think when I found that, and it was even before doing any of this, I wish I had discovered it because it just took a while, for me to do different things in the team. And when I finally discovered I am Latina, I love traveling, I speak Spanish, I can do all of those things, is when I found my place in the team. And then of course, when the pandemic happened, it changed because I couldn't do what I thought I was good at. But it also helped me change my way of thinking about finding what else. I had just tapped into one of my industries, but there are many other things that I am interested in and that I can actually bring back, so that when I'm doing the virtual shows, it's not just a benefit for me, that I'm being entertained, but also to better serve our customers and our clients, the team. And again, I just wish I had, discovered this sooner. So I really hope that you take the time to think ahead. Whether you're a visual person or not, this helps you get those juices flowing and really sit down and think, what else you like. And I promise you, once you start writing down who you are and do that excavation, of your persona, it's gonna help you also, think about what else could be next. And depending on things, how they change, you have options. And okay, this I cannot do, but I can move over here. So that is what I have for today. We do have time for Q&A. We have some time. So let's see, if you haven't submitted your questions, please do so now. We will be reading them back. If you have one that is specific for one of us, just make sure you say, hey, this question is for so-and-so. And we'll be taking those. So let's start with this one. I think this is a good one that we can all answer. So the question is, what's the best piece of advice that you have been given? And since you're here with me, Monica, let's start with you. What is the best piece of advice that you have been given?
I would have to say is be bold. And I remember having that conversation with someone, just be bold. And it could be anything from, if you feel uncomfortable asking a question, ask the question because someone else in the room may have the same question. If you have an idea, share the idea. Mm-hmm. Be bold to do it.
Nice. Let's go with you, Julie.
Mine is to finish school. When I graduated high school, I went to college and quickly realized that the college that I went to was not a good fit. And so I entered the workforce, and through the years, I would take classes every so often. But with the tuition reimbursement that AT&T offers, I went back to school. I got my bachelor's, which helped with my confidence in resumes. I finally could check that box that I could put that I had a degree on there, and now I'm pursuing my master's. So that was one thing that helped build my confidence, throughout my career. So,
thank you. So, Delia?
I think for me, the best advice I got was early on in your career, I talked about networking, meeting others, but outside of that, take on leadership roles. Lead a team, be the lead of a committee. That will challenge you. That will show whether you can drive for results. That will show whether you can lead and motivate others. It gives you the opportunity to coach. So that was one of the best advice that I received when I started early in my career.
Nice, thank you. Mine is short, and I use it for everything, and is don't be afraid. I used to be very nervous about different things, even like coming to a new country, not speaking the language, it was frightening, but, that has been, coming back and back from different people. My mom says it all the time, don't be afraid, and I owe her a lot of that confidence, to her, just to regain it, because it's so easy to lose it sometimes, and start questioning yourself. And then recently too, again, it just kind of like with this program, just talking to someone about it, and, there's this Capstone project, and I'm going to have to present, and this and that, and don't be afraid. You can do it. And yeah, now doing it doesn't feel as bad as we thought it would be. So that is my piece of advice. Don't be afraid. All right, so let's see what else we have. Oh, and this is a good one. And maybe I'll start with you, Delia. It says, who do you look for mentorship or guidance? I know you briefly talked about your board of advisors. So in your case, so who do you look for mentorship or guidance?
I think when it comes to mentorship and guidance, I look for that coach or supervisor that challenged me, where maybe my performance wasn't stellar, but I ended up improving. So that's who I go out and look for. I also try to balance, as I mentioned, when it comes to my team of advocates, getting someone that's diverse. I think, again, it all depends on the situation. If it's work-related, I will most likely reach out to former bosses, former leaders, even my peers about, I go through a recommendation. They help become sort of the devil's advocate. That's how I go and identify my mentors.
Nice. Julie?
For me, I've joined mentor circles here at AT&T or a mentoring program. And I also look to, I try to emulate the same types of behavior that I admire in other people in the work area or, in other areas of life. And, I try to find those things and incorporate them in my daily practices and in my relationships with others.
Thank you, Julie. Monica?
So during my career, I have found not only looking at levels above my own, but also peer-to-peer. I've made some great relationships at a peer level that have been able to provide great advice and mentoring as well.
Yeah, and I agree with that. That's something I was going to say too. I had a coworker that just got promoted, and I had a great conversation with him before he went. And he gave me one of the best, mentorship sessions, and at that point, we were still, peer-to-peer. So I think that's important. You can always get great advice from other people, in leadership positions, but then also from your peers that are moving up. Definitely, tap into, those conversations and learn as much as you can. And maybe even the people that just graduated from college. I've been mentoring some people, and I'm very surprised. They're very wise, and I was like, wow, I wish I was that wise when I was that young, and I learned even from them too. So lots of people that you can listen to keep enriching yourself. So let's see what else we have. Here's a good one. What's your next action item in advancing your career? So Monica, I think you're up next.
Okay, well, I think I'm going to explore areas of the business where I'm going to stretch my comfort level. Maybe something on a more technical side, delve into that aspect. I know that a lot of times when we stretch our comfort level, we learn a lot and we grow a lot. So I'm looking into something a little more technical aspect to build into my career.
Thank you. All right, Julie, for you, what is the next action item?
I follow Monica's.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I follow Monica. I just recently became a technology solutions manager, and there's a lot of components that are technical in nature, and you have to understand which development teams do what, and how that fits in with the bigger picture. So that's my goal over the next couple of years, is to learn as much as I can about the architecture and the development teams, and see how that way I can better assist the business in their tech dev initiatives.
All right. And Delia?
So right now I'm in a technical role in human resources. The project that I'm in, we've just moved to the SAFE and Agile framework. So one of the things I'd like to do is get SAFE, certified, Agile certified, and perhaps move on to a role in the technology arena in tech development side.
Perfect. For me, depending on what one of the industries I really want to talk about, but in my case, in this current role, definitely being more confident and just talking to people and trusting my knowledge. Building up the confidence is really the next step, and happy to say I'm slowly getting there. So I found another good question, and we didn't really talk about this, but let me know. I know, I am an immigrant, and I know this, I can give my 2 cents on this. But one of the questions is, I'm interested in hearing your comments about the role verbal fluency plays in your success. Many Hispanics have accents and did not necessarily grow up speaking English and get nervous about this. And I would say, to me, I 100%, agree with it. I think I let go a lot of opportunities because I thought I was gonna sound dumb, just because I have an accent. And it took a toll, because even when I was in some theater classes, I literally, auditioned for every single one. And when I got tired, I went and spoke to the theater director, and I was like, I think I'm a good actress, but I don't know, can you give me advice? What am I doing wrong? And she said, it's your accent. And, that hurt. And I was like, well, I can practice it and this and that. I was like, there's no time. We're moving so fast. You're really great, but you just have to work on it. And I was sad. I'm not going to lie. I was really sad and frustrated. But it actually helped me be angry in a way and just be like, you know what, I'm going to practice. I'm going to hear, all these English movies and just talk to more people and try to get as best as I can, But even sometimes today, it is like when I mispronounce a word, or, the TH or the CH, they sound funny. I think it's fine, because people can understand you. That's something I found out, sometimes it's in our heads. We get too much in our heads, and that's really what comes across. It's not so much the accent, but it's us being too self-conscious about it. So I don't know if you ladies want to, talk about this. If you have any opinions about that. I don't know if anyone else has English as a second language. I am the only one. All right. So let's see what else. There's one.
Abril, I have a question for you.
For me? Okay.
Yes. Did you use some kind of special software to make your mind map, or is that, how did you create that?
And thank you for, so that's a good point. There is an app. There's actually multiple apps to do your mind map. This one, I literally just created it in PowerPoint, for the presentation. But I went and searched for some, and I found 3 of them. If you just type in your App Store mind map, it will come up and you'll see the top ones with the best reviews. I was reading them. There was one that said that was free and it had the most capabilities, and so definitely download it so you can have it with you. But yeah, there are some really good apps out there that you can use for your mind map. So it is 3 o'clock. If there's nothing else, I would like to close the show. So just a quick reminder, if there is a session today, you know, one of us that you missed, you can always go back and watch it. The event will be replayed and hosted in the HACEMOS YouTube channel. So you can also watch the other ELLP Capstone presentation. So there's been quite a few that already happened. So if you were interested in watching them, just go to the HACEMOS YouTube channel. And please don't forget to take the survey. You should be seeing it right now, you know, at the bottom of your screen. And before we go, I would like to thank Ana Garcia. She is the national president of HACEMOS for this initiative and her support throughout the program. I also want to thank our madrina, Martha Aldaco, for being there every step of the way, and our senior madrina, Lisa Tenorio Trupa, for her time and coaching. And to the media productions team for their help in producing this webcast, and to my leadership for sponsoring it. And last but not least, you know, you ladies, thank you so much for being here with us. And to our audience, we want to thank you for your time today and your support. And we hope you found this session fulfilling and you feel empowered to take the next step in your career. Thank you so much.